At Gate C-23 of Atlanta International Airport, the air buzzed with the familiar hum of passengers, wheels of carry-ons clattering across the tile floor, and announcements echoing from overhead speakers. Amid this organized chaos stood Amira Blake, a soft-spoken 24-year-old woman in a sleek black trench coat, AirPods in her ears, and confidence in her stride. But to the outside world, she looked like any other stylish young traveler. No one could have guessed she was a billionaire, the CEO of a cutting-edge green tech firm shaking up the energy world. She didn't flaunt her wealth. She didn't need to. Her presence was quiet, but powerful. Today's flight to Los Angeles was supposed to be just another uneventful trip. But for Amira, what started as a simple journey, was about to unravel into a defining moment, one that would stop an entire aircraft, go viral across continents, and reveal the strength of her spirit. Cut to, boarding gate, now boarding first class, announcement. Narrator. As the gate agent called for first-class passengers, Amira gathered her tote bag and rolled her carry-on forward. She nodded politely at the older gentleman ahead of her, who offered a smile. Then came seat 2A, her favorite spot. Window view, quiet corner, a little slice of peace 30,000 feet in the sky. But as she stepped into the plane and walked down the first-class aisle, her smile faded. Someone was already sitting in her seat. A middle-aged white woman in a pastel cardigan, hair tucked neatly into a French twist, had spread her things out across 2A and 2B, her designer tote on one seat, her laptop bag on the other. She looked up at Amira as if she were the intruder. Amira, calmly. "Excuse me, I believe that's my seat." 2A. Woman, raising an eyebrow. "You must be mistaken. This is my seat. Maybe check the back." Amira, checking her boarding pass. "No ma'am, I'm not mistaken. 2A, first class." Woman, with a chuckle. "Honey, maybe you got upgraded by accident. They usually send people like you to coach." Narrator. The words hung in the air like smoke, people like you. She didn't shout. She didn't have to. The implication was clear. A few heads turned. A flight attendant's smile wavered as she walked over. Flight attendant, trying to keep it professional. "Is there a problem here?" Amira, handing over her boarding pass. "Not on my end. But I'd like to sit in the seat I paid for." Narrator. The flight attendant checked the digital manifest, her eyes widening slightly when she saw Amira's name, clearly listed under 2A. She turned to the woman. Flight attendant. "Ma'am, it seems there's been a mix-up. Miss Blake is indeed assigned to 2A. Woman, tight smile. "Well, it's already settled. I'm comfortable here. Can't she just take another seat?" Narrator. Silence. Tension. The kind that creeps up your spine and settles in your gut. Amira didn't flinch. She stood tall, still calm, still composed. But the next few seconds would change everything. Because Amira wasn't just a regular passenger. And this wasn't just a seating dispute. Cut to, cockpit door opens, the pilot walks out. Narrator. Captain Thomas Ellison, an Air Force veteran with 25 years of flight experience, had been informed of the situation. And unlike what the woman expected, he did not take her side. Captain Ellison, to the woman, firmly. "Ma'am, you were assigned seat 3B. I'm going to need you to move to your designated seat immediately. Disrupting the boarding process is a serious offense." Woman, shocked. "Are you seriously taking her word for it?" Captain, with authority. "No. I'm taking the manifest's word. And your behavior has already been documented." Woman, still trying. "I paid for first class." Captain, calmly, but clearly done. "And you still have a seat in first class. It just isn't this one." Narrator. The woman finally stood, scoffing, muttering under her breath. She grabbed her bags and stormed back to 3B. Amira didn't say a word. She sat down, placed her tote under the seat, and buckled her belt. But Captain Ellison wasn't finished. Captain Ellison, to the flight crew. Gate, this is cockpit. Hold boarding. I need security to deplane a passenger. Passenger in seat 3B is being removed for non-compliance and disruptive behavior. Narrator. The cabin went silent. The woman froze. Woman, now panicked. What? No. You can't do this. This is ridiculous. Captain. Ma'am, I gave you a chance. You refused to comply, disrespected another passenger, and attempted to cause a scene. You'll be rebooked on another flight. Please take your things. Narrator. And just like that, the white woman who thought she could mock and humiliate a young black woman with quiet wealth, was escorted off the plane. Scene transition, passengers whispering, TikToks being recorded. Narrator. Within minutes, footage of the incident hit social media. Hashtag flight privilege and hashtag respectamira trended worldwide. Viewers weren't just shocked by the woman's actions, but moved by how Amira never raised her voice, never stooped low, and how the pilot stood up for what was right. By the time the flight took off, Amira had gained over 250,000 new followers, and offers from 3 major networks to do an interview. But Amira? She just sipped her sparkling water and opened her Kindle. This wasn't about going viral. It was about something far bigger. At 36,000 feet, above the clouds and away from the noise, Amira Blake leaned her head against the window. Her face calm, her eyes focused. But inside, a mix of emotions stirred, disappointment, reflection, and yes, a familiar ache. This wasn't the first time someone had challenged her place in the world. But every time it happened, it stung just a little differently. Not because of what was said, but because of how expected it had become. Cut 2. Flashback: young Amira at age 12, in a private middle school classroom. Narrator. 12-year-old Amira sat at her desk, quietly reading ahead in a science textbook, while her classmates whispered. It was the second week of school, and a substitute teacher walked in. Substitute teacher, cheerfully. All right, class. I have your seating chart, but while I get settled, who here is on a scholarship? A few hands went up. Amira raised hers, too. But the teacher blinked in surprise. Teacher. Oh, not you, sweetheart. I meant the scholarship kids. Public referrals. Amira slowly lowered her hand. She said nothing. That was the moment she realized that people didn't expect excellence to wear her skin. Cut back to present in-flight scene, Amira staring out window. Narrator. That experience had shaped her, but it hadn't broken her. From there, she rose through Ivy League halls, launched her first startup at 19, and landed her first multimillion-dollar investment by 21. Now, at 24, she was on the cover of Forbes. But no amount of success could fully shield her from moments like earlier. Still, she hadn't come this far just to prove anything to people like the woman in 3B. She'd come to build, to uplift, and to open doors for others who looked like her. And ironically, that moment on the plane was opening a very different kind of door. Cut to, plane lands LAX airport, crowd of paparazzi and media. Narrator. When Flight 117 touched down at LAX, something unexpected awaited her at the gate. Not a car. Not her assistant. But a growing crowd of reporters, and strangers with signs. One sign read. We see you, Amira. Another. Dignity looks good on you. And a third, held by a teenage girl. You look like me. Thank you. Cut to, reporter rushes forward with microphone. Reporter. Ms. Blake, how do you feel about what happened? The video's already hit 12 million views. Amira pauses, speaks gently. I didn't expect any of this. But if my quiet stand helped even one girl feel like she belongs in spaces people try to deny her, then it was worth it. Narrator. And just like that, a new chapter began. Not one she asked for, but one she embraced. Scene transition boardroom meeting, a week later. Narrator. At her downtown LA office, Amira sat at the head of the boardroom table, facing her company's leadership team. They were preparing for the launch of Project Eve, a revolutionary new solar solution targeted at low-income neighborhoods. But the recent viral moment had created an unexpected opportunity. CMO, excited. Major brands want to partner. Adidas, Apple, Netflix, they're calling non-stop. CFO. Our stock's up 38%. Investors are begging to increase stake. What's the move? Amira, calmly. The move is, we don't sell our voice. We don't dilute our values. We use this attention to redirect focus, onto the work, the communities, the people who need to be seen. Team, nods of agreement. Cut to social media clip Amira speaking to college students. Narrator. Over the next 2 weeks, Amira visited 4 HBCUs. She gave impromptu speeches, funded scholarships, and sat in the back rows of student-run forums just to listen. Everywhere she went, students brought up the flight. Student, emotional. I've never seen someone that calm while being disrespected. You gave me courage to hold my head up. Amira, soft smile. You don't always have to shout to be powerful. Sometimes, grace is the loudest answer. Scene changed the flight attendant's apartment night. Narrator. Meanwhile, in a small apartment across town, Sandra, the flight attendant from that day, watched the news replay Amira's interview. Her hands trembled. She hadn't expected the captain to remove the passenger. But when he did, something inside her shifted. She emailed the airline that night and asked to be transferred to the Diversity and Ethics Training Division. She wanted to do more. Scene transition woman from 3B watching TV in her home alone. Narrator. And the woman from 3B? She sat alone, her face dimly lit by the TV glow, watching a talk show segment dissecting the incident. Her name was trending. Not for praise, but for shame. Host, on TV. When people ask, is racism still real? Just show them this clip. And the grace of the woman who endured it. Narrator. The woman looked down at her lap, suddenly aware of just how small she truly was. Final scene of part 2 Amira hosting a gala for girls in STEM. Narrator. By month's end, Amira hosted a black tie gala for young girls in STEM fields. She wore emerald green, stood beneath a glittering chandelier, and shared her final words of the evening. Amira, addressing the crowd. I was told once I didn't belong in a first-class seat. But the truth is, I was born to build the plane. Applause roared. Tears flowed. Hope ignited. And across the room, seated quietly in the back, Captain Thomas Ellison stood with his cap in hand, giving her a nod. Not of recognition, but of respect. 6 months had passed since the flight that shook the internet, and changed a life. Tonight, the Blake STEM Scholars Foundation was launching its first cohort. 200 black girls. From 10 cities. All fully funded. All ready to change the world. And at the center of it all stood Amira Blake. Not just a CEO now. Not just a billionaire. But a movement. Cut to, Amira on stage, her voice calm, confident, focused. Amira. When I was your age, I didn't know what legacy meant. I just wanted to make it through the next classroom without being questioned. The next meeting without being second-guessed. The next seat, without being told I didn't belong. Pause. The audience leans in. But one day, something small happened. A seat. A moment. A choice. And the world watched. Amira, smiling. That's when I realized. Sometimes you don't pick the moment picks you. But what you do in that moment, that's what builds your legacy. Applause erupts. Cut to, behind-the-scenes backstage interview. Narrator. After the event, cameras swarmed backstage for a feature with CBS Evening News. The producer leaned in, asking a final question. Producer. Ms. Blake, looking back, do you forgive the woman on the flight? Amira paused. Not for effect. But to truly reflect. Amira. I don't forgive her words. But I've let go of the weight they tried to carry. I forgive the ignorance. But I never forget the lesson. Because that moment wasn't just about me, it was a mirror. Producer. A mirror? Amira. Yes. A mirror to society. And a window for change. Scene shift: school gym in Detroit. A young girl with braids stares at a laptop. Narrator. In a crowded gymnasium in Detroit, 12-year-old Nia Morgan clicked play on the YouTube clip of Amira's speech. She watched Amira stand tall in front of hundreds of people. Nia, quietly, to herself. She looks like me. Narrator. Nia's mother, a nurse working double shifts, peeked over her shoulder and smiled. Because that video wasn't just viral content anymore, it was permission. Permission to dream higher. To sit wherever she wanted. To rise, no matter who tried to keep her low. Cut to, the woman from 3B attending mandatory airline sensitivity training. Narrator. Meanwhile, the woman who tried to steal Amira's seat now sat in a beige conference room. Her face was tight, her arms folded. Until a trainer played the viral clip. Trainer. Now, ask yourself, what part of you needed to assume she didn't belong? Silence. Then a breath. Woman, quietly. The same part that was never challenged. Narrator. Growth is uncomfortable. But sometimes, public shame cracks the shell of private ignorance. And through that crack, empathy can bloom. Scene change: Amira's office, late evening. Narrator. Back in Los Angeles, Amira sat alone in her office, a cup of tea in her hand. Her assistant had gone home. The building was quiet. On her desk lay a handwritten letter, from Captain Thomas Ellison. Amira, you reminded me what leadership truly means, doing the right thing even when it rattles the system. That day, you didn't just claim your seat, you lifted everyone's altitude. With respect, Captain Ellison. Tears welled in her eyes, but didn't fall. Cut to, Amira walking through her neighborhood, recognized by a little girl on a bike. Girl, stopping her bike. Hey! You're the plane lady. Amira, laughs. I guess I am. Girl. My teacher showed us your story. She said we can be anything. Amira, kneeling. She's right. You can. But if someone ever tells you otherwise. Girl, interrupting. I'll take my seat anyway. They both laughed. Scene transition: Global Tech Conference. Amira announces new initiative. Narrator. At the Global Green Future Conference, Amira unveiled Project AIRE, Accessible Innovation for Renewable Energy. Her company's boldest mission yet, to bring free solar power to 1,000 schools across underserved regions in the next 5 years. Amira, on stage. We're not here just to build panels. We're here to build possibilities. The crowd stood. Not just for her innovation. But for her integrity. Final montage, global footage. Girls in Ghana installing solar lights on school rooftops. A girl in Memphis coding in a robotics lab built by Blake Tech. Amira shaking hands with a UN Secretary General. The words, "You belong," lit up in neon above a girls' learning center in Oakland. Final scene: narrator voice slow, deep, reflective. Narrator. All of this began in a moment no one expected. A moment that started with arrogance and ended with ascension. Because when a black girl billionaire walked onto a plane and found her seat stolen, she didn't just take it back. She changed the altitude of the world.